Freedom Fighters. This is Jeremy Beeland with REI Freedom. We are here live today recording this podcast in our Facebook group and on our REI Freedom page. Love these podcasts. These are some of my favorite. I love to give a lot of value, but there's nothing more rewarding than one of your students kicking ass in the program and he gets to share or she gets to share, they get to share their journey and share it with you on how you can get better and learn from their experiences in this world of wholesale. So today we're going to talk to somebody who is, we'll share a little bit about his journey, but it was in real estate for a little while, went and opened up a successful business, came back, said, I want to get into real estate again, found me. I basically, twisted his arm until he said, Uncle, fine, I'll join your coaching program if I have to. I was thankful that he finally submitted and did, but no. Jay, well, it was great to have him in our program. He's doing awesome stuff. We're going to share a lot about his story today. Tell him I've had a lot of caffeine. It's late. I'm excited. But our guest today is no other than Jay Varney out of Jacksonville, Florida. Jay, welcome to the REI Freedom Podcast Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeremy. I'm excited. It's been a fun journey so far, so looking forward to talk about it.
Love it. Well, first things first, what we've realized with the title today is that you joined the program, and then the day you joined the program to the day you closed on this deal and got officially closed on record was 97 days. That's a pretty remarkable, timeline to get a pretty good deal under contract, especially in a very competitive market like Jacksonville, Florida, where, there's quite a few other people down there, but you did it and you did a great job.
Yeah, it's it was the kick in the butt I needed to. I was kind of all over the place trying to get back into wholesaling, and talking to you, within that first hour, I realized, what I needed to do to turn this into something real and get on the right track. But it feels good to get that first deal closed. It just makes you hungry for more, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that hunger. Let's feed the hunger, man. Let's feed it.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Exactly.
So you're no stranger to real estate and you're no stranger to running a business. So if you could share with the audience your first journey into real estate and why you took a sabbatical from that and where you went to and how you came back. If you could share a little bit of that journey with everybody, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, so 10, 12 years ago, actually probably longer than that ago now, I worked at Fidelity Investments, and it was a great company to work for. But I was doing real estate investing on the side. I got into a little bit of wholesaling. I picked up a handful of rentals. And honestly, I thought that was going to be my ticket out of corporate America at that point. And then a buddy of mine said, hey, you want to start up a brewery? And I was like,
heck yeah, I do.
Yeah. I mean, we homebrewed all the time together. So it was basically, hey, do you want to take this a step further and make it a business? And so long story short, that's how I ended up leaving the investment firm. And that took all my time. We're coming up on our 8-year anniversary for that business. But all throughout that process, I kind of, real estate investing got pushed to the wayside. I ended up selling all of my rentals over the course of that time period as it made sense to do so, just to get some extra cash along the way. And, fast forward to now, the brewery has done really well. It's got a lot of stability, which I'm thankful for. And, I'm still pretty heavily involved in it in day to day, but, I've got some extra time these days, and I've wanted to get back into real estate investing. And so when I got back in, earlier this year, I started doing a lot of the things that I used to do, 10, 12 years ago, and realized I was using very antiquated ways of doing business, and there were a lot better resources to utilize that I wasn't even aware of, different processes. The market is a lot more competitive now than it was back then. And so as I'm realizing these things, I'm kind of thinking like, all right, I need some help, and I need a kick in the right direction. and I need some accountability help because, with two kids and the business, I'm super busy. So it was easy to let real estate investing just kind of get pushed to the side. And, I didn't want that to be the case anymore. So,
Yeah, no, that's great. And I appreciate you sharing that. So, a few things like, first of all, I think a lot of people, as they start getting into their 30s or older, they realize corporate America isn't for them, right? And real estate is a great way to escape that. Obviously, you started doing this and had some great success, but then you had an opportunity to start another business, which was, again, a great opportunity for you to escape corporate America. I assume you have no regrets escaping corporate America, do you?
no, definitely. I could never go back, to be honest.
I've yet to see somebody leave and have some success. Say, I wish I could go back to corporate America. Nobody ever wants to
Yeah,
go back.
no.
But it's scary leaving, right? Corporate America. You're obviously having some success with real estate, but you decided to open up a brewery. And I mean, congratulations to make it 8 years. But most restaurants don't even make it a year. Never mind a few years or 8 years. I mean, you're definitely proven to yourself to have a successful business in a very difficult business, industry, right? That must have been scary putting all your eggs in that basket at that time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you have such stability with a corporate job when it comes to pay and benefits. And, you're trying to provide for your family at the same time. And, my wife was great through all of it. And thankfully she had good job too. And we were able to move insurance to her benefits and just allowed me to take the leap of faith. And she was supportive every step of the way. So I'm very thankful for that. But it was scary. Yeah. I mean, it's, especially those first couple of years, the money isn't coming in as quickly as you would like, and the expenses are running out the door. And yeah, you have a lot of sleepless nights in the early stages of opening a business for sure, but definitely worth it in the end. It's
So it's a
it
great
comes down to
segue.
anything else. I think it's just you just got to have that drive and work ethic, and you can be successful in anything, but you got to put in the hours for sure.
Love that. And that's a great segue. So, I would assume, opening a brewery is like, hey, just a couple guys brewing down in the basement. You just rent a little retail store, open it up, and people just pour in and just start giving you money for your beer. And it's
Yeah, yeah,
super easy,
exactly.
right? I mean, beer, a business can't be that hard, right? The reality is opening up any small business is very challenging. You mentioned having sleepless nights, cash flow issues. You probably had some second guessing and second thoughts along the way. Did I make the right choice? Right. But if you see it through and just keep working your butt off and pushing through, the results are on the other end. Opening up or starting a real estate investing company is very similar, right? There's a lot of things on social media. It just makes it, hey, you can start wholesaling and start flipping houses and buying sub two. You don't need any money. You don't need to do anything. You'll be rich in no time. But the reality is you're starting a new business. It does require some financial resources up front generally. And there is some struggles in the beginning, and there is some cash flow issues, and there are some sleepless nights, and there are some self-doubts and second guesses. And I think it goes like that with any business. But real estate investing, I don't think is any different. I mean, you're still somewhat new in your second time around, but I'm sure through these first 90 days where you got this deal, you're like, this really what I want to do, or do I?
Yeah, and it's funny too because having opened a business, it takes capital to start up,
Yeah.
and you're going to have expenses, and it's going to take a little while for the money to come in. But I guess in the back of my mind, I didn't really have the mindset that was going to be a business. I'm just trying to scrape together some marketing dollars to send postcards out, and hopefully I can get a deal, and that can really take me to the next step with marketing and everything. But you really do need some money to get those mailers out, because if you want to have any kind of consistent success, you need to be sending out a lot of mailers, and that's just not really what I used to do, and that's what I wasn't doing earlier this year before I joined the program. And then it became abundantly clear when I started talking to you and everybody else in the group that that had to be ongoing, and you gotta pump money into it so you have consistent leads coming in all the time. And now I realize that I'm running a business, and it's not just me trying to, hey, pick up a $8,000-$10,000 wholesale deal down the road, so then I can start marketing. It's like, I got to get it going and build some kind of consistency up front.
Because it could take you many, many, many months, even now, even with your skill set of your antiquated steps from back in the day, of getting that $8,000 to $10,000, right? And then the question is, do you stick in it long enough for that to even happen? And a lot of times, most people will quit. But I'm curious, before we get into the journey of this first deal, and there's so much value, you obviously had a successful brewery. I know you freed up some time, but what made you want to come back into real estate investing, knowing that you have a successful business somewhere else?
Yeah, so I think it's been honestly the crunch in the economy the last few years with inflation and everything. It's like it seems like insurance costs are rising like crazy, taxes are rising. Everyday living expenses are just, I mean, it's getting rough. So, the brewery does well, and I make a consistent salary with that. But I felt like me and our family are just kind of getting squeezed a little bit, and we have a lot less breathing room than we used to. So I was like, I gotta start thinking of other ways that I can bring money into the fold here, so we can have, get our head above water a little bit, kind of live a little more comfortably like we used to, because
Sure.
it's been a challenge ever since COVID, and seeing the changes across the board. So yeah, it gave me a pretty good push to get back into it.
I love it. And that's life, and that's business, and that's real estate. It ebbs and flows, it's ups and downs. And and when we were talking initially, when you were, vetting us out as a coach for your, to join our coaching program, I told you it would take, a year of hard, consistent marketing, consistent coaching, and a lot of effort just to build the foundation of something great, right? So you're not gonna like just start sending out some mailings this year, and obviously you got your first deal, which is great, but you're not gonna be like, it's not the answer to all your issues, your problems, your money woes, whatever. It's not going to just be like, hey, we joined the coaching program, we sent out some mailings, now we're just raking in hundreds of thousands of dollars, we'll never have to do a thing again, I don't even care if I sell beer, right? But it's going to take a year of hard work after you've just come off of 8 years of building a business, getting yourself into the mindset of like, oh my God, I got to do this again to build something else. That takes a certain kind of motivation and self-discipline, and I find that very impressive in you.
Yeah, and it was hard to get over the hump of going full steam into something else, because life is busy here, and
Yeah.
between the business and the family dynamic and all that, it's crazy. But I'd say one thing I take pride in myself is the work ethic that I've always had. I'm always willing to do whatever it takes, and have that mentality. And it can be a lot. There are a lot of days where it feels very stressful. I got things to put out at the brewery, and then I'm trying to do all these things here to build up my business, and it can get a little overwhelming. But when you get that first deal and it closes, it just affirms everything that you're doing, and it keeps you going. And I don't want to stop at this point.
Yeah, I love that first deal because the money's great, obviously, but it's the power of belief, right? The confidence that you build off of, holy shit, I can actually do this. This works. I got this, and do it again. And for our listeners listening to what Jay just said, that is real life. That is real world. That is success, guys. Success isn't what you see on social media. Success is Jay living at home on his own schedule with his family, but it requires him to have like I won't quit attitude. I pride myself on hard work. I do have sleepless nights. I do get stressed. It is overwhelming, right? There's some days I probably want to drink more beers than I probably should, right? But that is success. That's what comes along with it. It's not like you're gonna just be living this dream of fancy cars and fancy houses. With that, those people have tons of real life stress like this too. They just don't show it, but this is real world. And I'd like to be very, transparent in what you're getting yourself into. And, when you probably talked to me initially on our onboarding call, I was probably trying to be very transparent with you about expectations of timelines and everything else probably told you probably get your first deal in the first 90, to 120 days, which you did, and it's going to take you a year to build out your program, your business, and everything else. And it won't be easy. It's simple, but it's hard work. Obviously, I didn't scare you. I tried. I didn't scare you away. What made you decide to join REI Freedom as opposed to anything else? What made you pull the trigger and spend the money on coaching?
Yeah, I knew that if I did something like this, I was going to hold myself accountable. I wasn't going to let myself just kind of fall by the wayside again. It's like, if I'm going to spend money on a coaching program, I'm damn well going to make sure that I get the most out of it. And I actually had joined some kind of coaching thing way back when I first did a wholesale deal. And I kind of said the same thing to myself then. I spent maybe $3,000 down at a conference in Orlando for a weekend, and I learned about wholesaling, and I came out of that and I did, 4 or 5 wholesale deals. So I knew the benefit, but more importantly, I needed some kind of accountability partner people around me. I just wanted to be, surrounded by people doing the same thing, so that would motivate me to get my butt in gear.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the same way. Obviously I have a couple coaches myself. They hold me accountable, and and I need that. And a lot of times sometimes I just need the structure of like, what are the tangible tasks I need to do next, which is a lot of things that we try to apply in our coaching program. That's when you came on. I'm like, all right, here's all your steps. You need to start doing all these things now, which will lead you to your first deal. And now we're going to get you to rinse and repeat and get better throughout the course of each cycle through. But let's talk about this first deal, because this is super cool. There's some things you did in this first deal that a lot of people don't do. But if you could share you mentioned direct mail, so I assume you got this from direct mail. So if you could share, why the seller was looking to sell, how that conversation went, how that meeting went. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, so he had called me off a mailer, and it was basically his childhood home. He had inherited it from his parents and went through probate, and he was building a house down in World Golf Village, which is a nicer community a little further south of where we are. So he had this, really nice brick single family house in a desirable neighborhood, nice old hardwood floors, and obviously it needed work, but it's in an area that a lot of people like. It's great flip area, rental area, but he just didn't want to deal with listing it. He just wanted kind of a quick sale, get everything out of there. He didn't want to do a bunch of showings, and we had a great relationship. There were a lot of things that we had common ground over. He had been to the brewery a number of times, so there was that.
Awesome.
Huge Jags fan, so we talked a lot about a lot of different things. And so yeah, I finally met him at the house. He kind of walked me around, and just kind of went through the script again with him while we were there, and tried to nail down a price, and we struck a deal and signed the contract right there that day, and continued to talk more about the Jags and everything else. And it went really well, actually.
That's amazing. So, I've been talking recently in some of my content that I've been putting in the Facebook group is like one of the, two things that people don't like, right? Is, and these are your first 2 objections, is nobody wants to be sold, and nobody likes salespeople. Right. So, you didn't come in as a salesperson when you're building all this rapport, talking Jags, and he obviously knows you do a brewery. So it doesn't feel like you're in there and you're trying to sell him. Right. So it doesn't feel this pressure of like he's trying to be, he's going to be sold on anything, because people don't like that. Right. This is why when we go to car dealerships, when we're outside looking at cars, all of a sudden we feel the car salesman coming up behind us. They always ask us the favorite question, hey, can I help you? We always just say, no, we're just looking, right? Like we're there on a Saturday morning just to spend hours of time looking at cars for some random reason. But we say that because we don't like to be sold. We don't like the pressure of sales. And you building rapport, finding all those commonalities and those connections is huge. And, a lot of things what Dan probably you see now is we're always just, you come in from a place of empathy. You want to just make a friend. Hopefully you can do business together, but you're really just there to make a friend and try to see if you can problem solve. And in this case, sounded like this guy's like, I inherited this house. I don't really want to deal with any of the headaches of listing it with a realtor, multiple showings. I definitely don't want to put the work into it. I'm building a dream house somewhere else. I just want to get my cash, be done with this, and be out of here. Is that more or less what you were trying to do for him?
Yeah, absolutely.
So were you afraid of putting the property under price for a contract? I mean, you've been out of the market for a long time. Did you feel very confident at the price you put it in? Did you have any second guesses?
Yeah. That honestly, that's probably the one thing I struggle still with the most is, the price to lock it up, because you don't want to lock it up too high, and then you're in that struggle bus moment. But yeah, no, I had done a little bit of research, probably more research than I would do now, with that first one. But yeah, I think with all the rapport that we built, it was a lot easier to have the conversation on price when it was all said and done. And I think one of the biggest helps in joining this program has been the structure of the script, because I had always been good at building rapport with people. I worked in a call center at Fidelity for 10 years, and that was kind of my bread and butter. So, building rapport with people was good, but I never really had the structure of how to kind of get the questions to a closing point, and asking the right questions to pull a number out, and then finally going through closing and signing the contract. So it was a little daunting, and he had a higher number in mind than I wanted, and then we kind of
They always do.
settled somewhere in the middle, and
Yeah.
it was a price that worked for both of us.
So do you remember what the ARV was on this property?
ARV was around actually it was around 300 to 310.
300, 310. What did you end up locking it up at?
170.
Wow, that's a really good price. And do you remember what he was looking to get out of the property at that time?
He originally started 190. I apologize. 170 was what I offered, but he started around 240, and
Okay.
then we kind of worked our way down from there.
Wow, so you got him down 50 grand.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah.
And were you at 190? Did you feel confident with that number leaving, or were you still questioning yourself? Did you have it low enough?
I felt pretty good that I was going to be able to get something, with this new method of kind of how you guys teach to, create a competitive market and an auction style bidding type thing on the property. I didn't fully know what to expect. I had always worked in wholesales as like, I'm just going to put whatever my price is for whatever profit I want to make, and then see what offers I get. So yeah, I was a little unsure because I had never done it this way, where I'm only listing it a little ways over what I got it under contract for. But I was pretty confident at that price I was going to be able to get something. And yeah, sure enough, it works out.
So one of the things we talk about when you come into our coaching program is building a big buyers list, right? We always say the more cash buys you have, the better. But you guys know from me that I like to leverage the MLS as far as disposing some of my properties. I've yet to have a student do it on their very first deal, but you came to me and said, Jeremy, I have a buyers list. I think I could do this buyers list, but I think I want to throw this on the MLS. And I said, okay, well, just make sure the seller's okay with it. Make sure he signed off. You're like, he did sign off. I said, just make sure the seller's cool with it. You reached out to him. He didn't seem to care. But this is your first deal in over a decade, maybe, 12, 13, 14 years. And you're like, all right, dude, I'm all in. Let's throw it on the MLS. That's pretty cool. It's pretty ballsy. It's pretty scary, pretty intimidating. What made you decide to do it? And then tell us how you did it.
Yeah. So going back to your earlier question about, were you nervous about the price? And yeah, I think that's probably where I started having some butterflies and second thoughts. It's like, I haven't tested my buyers list at all yet. So I don't know how they're going to perform. I don't know if they're even going to get my emails. If I'm shooting out a bunch of emails, who's going to see it? How many people am I realistically going to get this in front of? So I really like the idea of that added peace of mind of the MLS to get extra eyes on it. So we talked about it, and I ended up using a flat fee listing service here in Florida online to do it, $100, and got it up there, which was, I'm glad I know what the process is like now for that, because it's I do need the seller to do some things that I didn't realize he was going to have to do for verification and stuff like that. So now I can set proper expectations with sellers if I'm going to go that route. But we listed it, and listing it gave me a lot of confidence because I started getting a lot of offers coming in right away, and they weren't all great offers, but once I started seeing, at least my asking price in the offers, I knew I was going to make something off of this.
Which is so reassuring at that point.
Yeah. So then, we had the showing, and
well, let's talk about the showing. So what is that showing like? Can you explain to the audience what that showing is like? Do you just open it up for an afternoon? Do you have multiple showings? How did you get all these people there? What did it look like?
Yeah, so just basically blast it out to my buyers list, put that in the MLS as well. But we're going to do a one-time showing, the following week on a Wednesday from 12 to 1. This is going to be the only opportunity for anybody to see it, MLS or cash buyers. I threw up the deal on just about every Facebook page I could get my hands on in Jacksonville, whether it was cash buyers or real estate investors or homes for sale. And just like you guys talk about, trying to drive as much traffic to that one showing as possible to create that, sense of urgency on the end buyer. And it works. I mean, I got a lot of people through there. I want to say there was 15 to 20 people that ended up showing up that day. And it's funny because the person who bought it was somebody I've been networking with over the last 6-8 months, and some of the meetups that I had gone to in various parts of Jacksonville. But I think the MLS definitely helped in terms of getting that interest level high at the showing, because I had a lot of groups of people that weren't my cash buyers that showed up, and everybody was walking around the house looking at things, doing their due diligence. And I think that definitely helped drive up the price on a couple of people, and I got a bigger wholesale fee as a result.
That was amazing. So how many offers did you get? Do you remember?
I mean, legitimate offers, like at asking or above, it was probably about 6. I mean, I got tons of offers, tons of lowball offers, tons of offers that were a little below. But as far as asking and above, there were probably, actually, maybe I want to say 6 or 7.
So now you have 6 or 7 offers at asking. And just for people that don't know, what we teach in our coaching program is when you get a off-market property to market it, we only market it $4,900 over contract price. So a lot of people are very scared with that. They're like, well, what if I only get asking price? Well, then you only get $4,900. But the reality is we do that because the lower the price, the more interest level we get on it, the more people we drive to the open house, and we get the 15, 20 people. If Jay just put on, he had it for 190, and instead of putting it up for 194.9, said I'm going to put it up for 210, right? There would have maybe been only 5 people there, maybe even less than that, right? There could have been no people there. But him putting it up at 194 got more people there. And when you have more people there, that naturally drives the price up because everybody's competitive, because they want to get this hard to find off-market deal because everybody wants the next project. So you are able to get multiple offers. You're sourcing them all. I do not want you to tell people the special technique because that's for students only. But if I remember correctly, I told you once you get all the offers, do a special technique, and it did yield their offers to come in a little bit higher at the end, didn't they?
Yeah, and it was it didn't get my highest offer higher, but it did get another one right in the same ballpark, which was reassuring because I had that original best offer started, talking to me about, he needed to use his title company, and I was like, I already started title, and he was like, all right, just trying to like wiggle around on a few things, and I could tell that I didn't think he was necessarily going to go away from that price, but it was very reassuring that I had another offer that was probably even better from a follow through standpoint, because it was 5 days with no inspection, whereas this one they wanted the inspection period, and so I probably could have gone with the other offer and got it closed quicker. But I've been networking with this guy for a long time. I kind of wanted to do business with him, and he was the first one that gave me the best offer out of the gate. So
and I love that. And I love that.
So, but yeah, it made me feel great when that second offer at the same price came up, and I was like, all right, I'm going to be able to move it and make this amount of money regardless of who I go with here.
And that technique will work almost all the time. And it may not bring up, in this case, it didn't make you really any money other than your backup offer. But at times, it may only bring you an extra $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. But you do that 10, 15, 20 times a year. That's a significant amount more money you get from the cash buyers, because cash buyers typically want to flip that script on you, right? So you started to feel it. I want to use my title company. Maybe I'm going to try to do some things to kind of negotiate this down a little bit, right? Buyers and at wholesale, especially when they're new, tend to be very intimidated by big bad cash buyers, and cash buyers kind of throw away their weight and around and just be like, I do this and I've done that, and I'm and that can be intimidating. But when you have the power and the reassurance that, hey, dude, if you don't want to use my title company to get this deal closed, I got this guy right here. He's going to actually close it quicker with my guy. I'm doing you a favor because I like you. But if you're going to play hardball, I'm going to I'll release your EMD, kick you out of the assignment. I'll go with this guy. I'll have this thing closed next week. That's a very reassuring feeling, and it gives you the power of your own deal, which you should have.
Right. Yeah. All of this is just so new to me. It's not at all how I operated wholesaling a decade ago. And so when I initially talked to you and you were kind of outlining how the process works, from marketing down to getting a deal and doing the showing, it was just light bulbs were just going off in my head, like, oh yeah, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And like I know the coaching program is worth it just from this initial 1 hour conversation, because of all the things that I'm learning and the ways that I can make more money for myself. Because when I was wholesaling before, it was like I was shooting for a $5,000 to $10,000 wholesale fee, not thinking really like anything bigger than that was even a suitable thing to do. And now my first wholesale deal, pull in 17,000, and it feels great.
17 grand, which is amazing, right? Let's do a little bit of this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tom Crow Bell action there. Congratulations. 17 grand is no joke. But you saw first of all, you had to invest in coaching, you had to invest into marketing, you had to put a lot of time and effort into that deal. Can you imagine now just selling that deal you would have taken the $5,000 and been happy, but don't you see the value of trying to get as much money as you possibly can out of these deals, because you're working so hard to get them, and this guy's problem wasn't so severe, but you're going to be really actually helping some people in your community by providing them a lot of great value. So all this money, all this work, all this effort, all this value, you deserve to make as much money as possible. Nobody should be limiting to how much your assignment fee should be.
Yeah. And now, especially even as I go more through the coaching program and go through more of the sales training and hear what everybody else is doing and ways to have conversations and questions to ask, it's like I'm now really realizing how I can take the conversation to another level and get, negotiate deeper discounts for bigger spreads. And, I think before I was maybe scared, had this fear of just going too low on people, but that's what you got to do if you want to make more money. I feel like I definitely could have got this guy lower, had I known some of the things that I do now, some of the questions to ask, some of the ways to drive conversation. But I'm super happy with 17,000. But yeah,
As you
going
should
forward,
be.
I know I'm going to get better, and I know that the spreads are going to get larger, and I can't wait for that.
Dude, I made $5,000 off my first deal. I don't even think I made 17,000 off my first 4 deals back in 2017. So 17,000 is awesome. And it is your first time through. You will get better. As I talked about earlier, right? We want to just get you through that first deal, get you that confidence. And our coaching program is going to help you get better with each cycle through, right? So you may not even make 17,000 in the next one, but you're still going to get better and eventually get better. And then all of a sudden you're going to find your averages are like $25,000 a deal. It could be as high as $35,000 a deal on average, right? Without even swinging a hammer. And you ask yourself, Jay, like, I mean, you got 17,000. Now, what would your life be like if you had two $17,000 deals a month consistently coming in? Would that greatly impact your life going forward?
Yeah, I mean, that would be absolutely life changing.
Would you be killing yourself from a time perspective to bring in 2 deals of $17,000 a pop once you get the flow go? I mean, are you going to have to work 60-hour weeks to do that?
No, definitely not. It's a little overwhelming in the beginning because you are laying the foundation. You're getting all the logistical pieces in order. So, you're building your buyers list. You're working hard on that. You're getting your marketing going. You're figuring out dispo. You want to get an online presence, and especially when I'm getting things under contract, and all the work to set up the showing. It's in the beginning when you don't know all that and you're trying to build that, it's overwhelming, but it's just getting easier as I go through it, and it's easy to see how this can just be a stable, consistent business that is going to provide me a lot of extra income.
Definitely will, my friend. And obviously, off-market properties for you to keep as rentals again as you choose. One of the things that people don't really understand. Now we're talking about your success in the first 90 days of one deal, but there's also been some ones that didn't come to fruition during that time because you're new. Like if you take the Jay 9 months down the road and put them back into these conversations, these deals that didn't go through now probably would have a much likelier chance of actually succeeding because you just aren't good enough yet to get those deals to where they need to be. But 9 months, 12 months, 15 months down the road, that Jay with that experience and that knowledge is going to be closing these deals now. So a lot of our students, they're closing this first deal in 90 days, but there's still 1 or 2 that they could have closed, but they just are so new, they don't have the skill set yet.
Yeah,
you can see that. Mm-hmm. So as somebody who's gone through their first deal, you're obviously up and running, which is amazing. I'm so proud of you and I'm happy for you. For somebody who is listening to you, inspired by you, if you think about everything you've done today, up to date, is there anything that you think like that stuck out where you maybe made a mistake? You wish you could get a redo? Is there something that you maybe thought you knew, but you didn't know? Some piece of advice that you'd be like, God, if I could just go back and do that differently, maybe something would be different.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like on a deal or anything like that?
Just anything through this first 90 days through.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of fumbled through this recent situation where it's all like I said, my biggest struggle is deciding on a number and getting to that number, and that's been a kind of something I've been working on, trying to get to know areas and values and where everyone's at, so I can market and sell these properties for the spreads that I want to. I think that's been the biggest hang up for me. And, going through these conversations is a constant work in progress too. It's such an art to take a seller through a journey on a conversation, build rapport, but kind of guide them to the end result that you're looking for. So it's been a challenge as well, but I can easily feel myself getting a whole lot better. And I know every single conversation that I have, I do better on. And,
Yes, you
you know, I
do.
think that's what it's all about, you know, because that's the bread and butter. I mean, that's what makes you money. It's the conversations you have and how effective you can be in that. And if I can just keep getting better at that, I know I'm gonna keep doing well.
Dude, no truer words have ever been spoken, and that's why we focus so much on the acquisition sales skills. We call them sales skills, but they're really communication skills. You know, the reason why Dan is amazing at what he does is because he's been doing it for 10 years, and he's been coached by his brothers, which were really amazing at it. My acquisition guy, Eddie, up here in New Hampshire, who's a freaking rock star, he's great because he's been at it for years, right? You know, a lot of people just feel like, oh, if I just start cold calling, if I pull a distress list, if I find a house that needs work, people are just going to sell to me. You know, I just got to send out offers and they're just going to come to me and I'm going to be landing deals. It doesn't work that way. And they often overlook the art form of the acquisition, sales skills, communication skills. And that is where all the money is made in this business. And you're 100% right. And that's why we focus so much effort on it. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So a couple more questions. We'll wrap this up. It's going long. It's just so much to talk about, so much value here. I love this whole story. You know, for somebody who, you know, is in your shoes 3 months ago, 4 months ago, what is some good piece of advice you could give somebody, you know, on the outside looking in, wants to get started, doesn't know where to start, or, you know, maybe has already done a deal with you, like you, and wants, what good advice could you give knowing what you've been through over the last 3 months to somebody?
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta take action. I think that's something I've always prided myself on. It's like, you know, I do a lot of research, probably to an overkill level, but then I go out and actually put it into play and do something with it. Where I know there's a lot of people out there that just don't do anything. You know, when I was a member of Jack's REIA way back in the day, you know, there are people that would show up to all these paid seminars and they just never do a single deal. They're just dropping money on all this stuff and just not taking advantage of it in their day-to-day life. So I think you got to just get up and do something. You got to get marketing dollars out there. You got to get leads coming in, and you got to, I mean, the coaching program was a game changer for me. I mean, it puts me in the right direction. I'm just surrounded by a bunch of people that are cheering each other on, that are answering questions when you need help, that are there for, you know, just to support each other in this group that you created. And it's amazing. I mean, it's the easiest way to just get deals done and just start investing in yourself. So yeah, I mean, it's scary. I think a lot of people out there have heard horror stories about various coaching programs, and you know, people are just looking to take advantage of people, and I think a lot of people are scared of that, but I think you just got to get over the hump. You got to get some education, you got to get some mentoring, and you just got to take some steps to make it happen, because you're going to kick yourself. And I knew I didn't want to be in this place next year having not done anything about it. And I was like, you know, I just gotta take the step and do something.
Analysis paralysis is what caused fear, and fear causes more things to never come to fruition more than anything else, right? We're always afraid of failure. We're always afraid of rejection. We're always afraid of, you know, what may happen, right? And, you know, listen, you took a chance investing into our coaching program. You took a chance putting out marketing. You took a chance going on that house, and obviously it led you to $17,000, which is amazing. But no matter what I taught you, Jay, you said it, right? I could teach you everything, just like all those guys that were going to all those seminars that are the constant knowledge seekers, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect time, which never exists in real estate, right? There's no perfect
Yeah.
opportunity. But no matter what I teach you, somebody has to go out and actually do it. And you said taking massive imperfect action is the key to success here. And that is the reason why you have $17,000 in your first 90 days, because I gave you the knowledge, Jan gave you the knowledge, REI Freedom gave you the knowledge, but you went out and applied that knowledge and took action. Whether you made a mistake or not, you just went out and did it, and it yielded good results. So, you know, that's really the key to success right there, is taking action.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride, and I'm looking forward to keep it going. It's fun to just see what everybody's doing in this group, and
Pretty
talking
wild,
to
isn't it?
everybody on a daily basis and seeing the successes. It's very motivating place to be for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. We believe in collaboration, not competition. We want to foster a community of growth and prosperity and excitement, and absolutely, we love that. Shelly and I have been really, really proud of that. All right, so last question. I want to end with this. I'd love to ask all guests this. You're still relatively new, but listen, I think it's an important question for you to answer. We call it REI freedom, right? Real estate investing freedom. Freedom through real estate investing can come in many different ways for many different people. Some people just want to flip 1 or 2 houses a year. Some people want to own mega apartment buildings. Some people want to be super rich. Some people just want to live minimally and just get enough to get by, right? For me and Michelle, we want to build a life where we love doing real estate, but we build a life where life is on our own terms. We're building a life we never want to retire from. We want to build a life of time freedom for ourselves. But I'd love to know, Jay, what would REI freedom mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's at this point freedom to kind of do what we want with our family as we please. Because I mean, honestly, the brewery has afforded me a bunch of freedom. I'm not stuck in an office from 9 to 5 every day. I
Yeah.
have a couple of days a week where I don't really have to do a whole lot there, and it affords me time to do other things. So I'm fortunate in that regard. But going back to the crunch of the economy, and things just getting tighter from a money standpoint, I'd love to be able to just do things with the family, whether it's taking quick trip on a weekend, or planning a family vacation, or just even not, hey, I want to go down to the butcher shop and buy a $200 brisket this weekend without thinking about, spending that kind of money on a piece of meat
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah. I love
I
it.
think that is a game changer for us, and we're already seeing the effects of the first deal helping with all that. So yeah, doing stuff with the family, and being able to just live a life together, doing the things that we love.
I love it, brother. I love it. Great answers. I love it. And we're just getting started. You're 3 months in. We've got 9 months to go to finish building this foundation of something great. Year one's going to be pretty awesome, but the foundation you laid going into years 2 and 3 are going to be life changing. And I'm really excited to be a part of watching that journey ahead for you. So I appreciate you trusting us being in our program. I really appreciate you being on this podcast today. If anybody would like to reach out to you and just ask you some questions or connect with you, be on your buyers list, want to do some JVs with you down in Jacksonville, do you want to give out a way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, email is probably best at this point. And you can actually contact me at my brewery email, which is j@southernswells.com. But yeah, it's funny. I've met a lot of real estate investors, a lot of sellers that are aware of the brewery, and it's been a pretty good common ground piece across the board.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's you can definitely reach me there.
And where is this brewery? Let's give a plug for the brewery. For anybody in Jacksonville, they need to be going to this brewery. Where is it? What's the name of it?
Yeah, Southern Swells Brewing. It's in Jacksonville Beach. Yeah, we're about 13 blocks back off the ocean in Jacks Beach. So yeah, come check us out.
Sounds great. Great. Awesome. All right, guys. So that is it for this week's episode. And Jay, I really appreciate you doing this live with us tonight. So much information, such a great journey. I want to thank for everybody who's watching us live today as well. And listen, if you guys want to learn what it's like to join our coaching program and maybe do $17,000 in your first 90 days as a wholesaler, or you're already doing some deals, but you want to take it from maybe a few deals a quarter to a few deals a month, well, why don't you book a call with me at reifreedom.com/apply. We'll do a discovery call, see if you're the right fit for us, see if we're the right fit for you. Until then, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Kyle, aside, we good?
Yes, boss.
All right, we done being live?
We're done.
Woohoo! Jay, you're a good sport with everything, man. Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was fun.
That was fun. So you'll have the video, but once we get it up on the podcast and everything, we'll be promoting it all over so you can hear yourself on the radio. It's always weird when you hear your voice on the radio. I can't even listen to my podcast anymore because it drives me a little weird.
Yeah, you've been dominating the podcast space though. I've listened to all your stuff from the beginning, and I mean
Oh, really? Good.
you can see how you've definitely improved as a podcaster from
Oh,
day
that's
one.
nice
So
to hear.
it's been pretty cool to see that.
No, thanks. I appreciate that. Massive imperfect action, right? I'm just trying to get 1% better every day. I appreciate that. So let's connect. First of all, you sold me that testimonial. Don't forget. I would
I
definitely
did
love
that
to get
today,
that.
actually.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll have Carla reach out. You and I, let's connect by next week, the latest. Let's sit down, look at your marketing a little, see if we want to make any small adjustments so we can start getting the second deal in, the third deal in without you overspending. I don't want you to blow through your 17 grand, but I want you to, like with the investor carrot, maybe some ringless voicemail, depending on your bandwidth, get a few other things going so we can get you a few more deals here the first 6 months.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think yeah, and I want to touch base with you too because I have the end of this marketing campaign. I think the last drop goes out November 7th. So I wanted to pick your brain on where to go next with the mailers because that was like the original list that he pulled of like 10,000 different people. So
Okay. Yeah. So, Carla, why don't you reach out to Jay tomorrow and let's get him scheduled for like next Wednesday or Thursday for him and I to spend like a little bit of time going over his marketing and get him set up for success for this the next couple months.
Okay.
Awesome. Jay, have a great night. Thank you for sending that testimonial once you get to it. Ladies, thank you so much. I know it's late in the Philippines. They've basically been working for 12 straight hours for me. I appreciate you guys so much. Everybody have a great night and I'll talk to you guys soon.
awesome. Thank you.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Jay. Bye, ladies.